meeting of Manhattan Community Board 5 Land Use Housing and Zoning Committee. I'm Nancy Gosho, Chair of the committee, and I'm joined by Yaron Nodi Victor, who will serve as our Vice Chair tonight.
Hi, everybody.
And now I'd like the committee members to introduce themselves. Let's start with who's around the table. To Yaron's left.
Right.
Libby Hutton.
Zul Zolkowitz. Michael Greeley.
Okay, and online we have.
Seth Borden.
Thank you. Anyone else? Small group tonight. Okay. We really don't have any items that we're voting on tonight, so I'm gonna skip that, but whatever we decide to do, if we do anything, it will be reported at the Thursday, June 11th, full board meeting. So we'll see you there. So I just wanted to go over again, the purpose of our committee is to promote development that aligns with city goals and district needs. And everyone knows what our district needs are, right? Evaluate proposals based on long-term public benefit. Foster a collaborative, consensus-driven process among diverse stakeholders. So our role is to ensure that land use and zoning reflect community needs and help build equitable, resilient, and thriving Midtown Manhattan neighborhoods. As I said, we don't have any applications before us tonight, so I'm going to begin with a presentation called Times Square Everywhere. And then Yaron will lead us into discussion about the committee member survey results and how we can improve our processes, our working relationships with a more balanced participation and inclusive dialogue. Those were some of the criticisms that we came up with. So let's go. So let's put up the slide deck.
I did. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want to usually call for new business first? Do you
Oh,
want-
right. Is there any new business?
And it's a public session.
Oh, we have some new business.
Yeah,
Appropriate
okay.
time. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for recognizing me. Should I stand on here?
Yeah.
Okay. This is significantly less daunting than the full board. I appreciate that.
Yes, I recognized you from there. Yeah.
My name is Jacob Van Winkle. I'm the treasurer of the West 50s Neighborhood Association. Our president is David Akalis. You guys might know Suzanne Johnson. She's also part of it. We have been working on a campaign against the 230 West 54th Street LED sign, also known as the 1701 Broadway plot.
And Times Square Everywhere, by the way, which we're
Correct.
talking about.
Yes, it's
Good
quite
time. Good
relevant to your subjects tonight.
Right.
On Monday, the DOB sent a 5-point response to Assembly Member Simone and Liz Kruger and CB5. It was forwarded to me through Kruger's office. And today I sent back a rebuttal to the 5 points using the DOB's own records, cleanly striking each point. I brought a copy with me to show you the rebuttal that is relevant today. After the rebuttal was sent, Simone's Assembly Member Simone's office called me. We chatted through it. So I have a 1-pager about the issue total, and then I've got the rebuttal to what the DOB sent to us on Monday morning.
Great.
I'm available for questions and would love to support this cause. Anytime my information is on these sheets, I will be around CB5 meetings frequently. And I appreciate your consideration in taking this on as an issue or as an agenda item in future meetings.
Great. Thank you.
Can I ask?
Have you also
some
sent-
questions?
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, have you also sent that to the office?
So
Yes.
CB5 and Assembly Member
They were copied.
Simone
Alright,
and
okay.
yes, yeah,
Great.
Senator Kruger all received
Great.
these documents.
And you have copies to share here?
I have copies to share here with the committee.
And, okay, so, and why did you not send it to Manhattan Borough President or our council member, Carl Wilson? No, I'm
Yes.
curious.
This is an excellent question. So the offices of our elected representatives seem to have aligned in certain patterns. And for some reason, Senator Krueger and Assemblymember Simone ended up on the same email chain and in the same meeting with the DOB and CB5. So I'm pushing all offices equally. Some tend to be more responsive than others. Some have like a certain tactic they want to use. But on Monday, the DOB only sent this to Senator Krueger and Assemblymember Simone and CB5. Yeah, so that is the reason I responded just to
Okay,
that.
so just to bring you up to date. This is what he's concerned about is an illuminated and flashing LED digital advertising sign that is mounted on the north facing Hotel Ameritania on 55th Street, 54th Street and Broadway. It is not in the Broadway Special District, which is 7th Avenue and Broadway, 50th Street to 42nd Street, which is the area that these illuminated and flashing advertising signs are permitted as of right. So that's the problem.
And you know, we've had several on Fifth Avenue already, most of which we've shut down, but
So we have a problem, and I have a question for you. Did you use any lighting professionals in I know you wrote a very long report.
Oh, yeah,
Did
so
you use lighting professionals? In that at all?
okay, so my trade is cinematographer, and prior to that, I was in mechanical engineering.
Okay,
So I understand specs quite well.
but you didn't use a light. The reason I ask is
Yeah.
I have reached out to an exterior lighting designer who does exterior lighting design. I work with her in some
Nancy's an
projects.
architect.
Okay,
So I just wanted to know if you had beside yourself. And also you should maybe tell us your credentials. I mean, are you a member of IES? Do you know what IES is?
I'm not a member of IES, and I
Okay,
did,
it's the Illuminating Engineering Society, okay? And they have a rating system called BUG. And we're gonna go over BUG. There's also well building rating systems. So there are several rating systems already in use in a number of cities. However, not in New York City. So as you can see, guys, I've done a lot of research on this.
And Jacob, as a cinematographer, probably has some.
I've got lighting tools.
Yeah.
Is what and lighting meters and things like that.
So what we need to do is, we need to come up with a way to measure it, to rate it, and to then write a policy to have it put into the zoning resolution. And next month, we are having coming before us a request for a zoning text amendment for mounting an illuminated flashing LED bright lighting 60-foot tall on the southwest corner of 34th Street and 6th Avenue, which, by the way, is facing directly into Herald Square, Foss Park Park. Trees and habitat do not like 24/7 illuminated flashing advertising signage.
We had one almost directly across from Madison Square Park on the west side of Fifth Avenue that they finally shut off. But there've been several on Fifth Avenue, about four in a 10-block area.
Okay,
Can we ask Jacob if he can distribute his one pages? That would be helpful.
well, they'll give it to,
What can we
Well,
have
you can
copies
do it.
now?
Copies.
Yeah.
okay, so the other thing I wanted to add is, if you look online, these signs are very inexpensive to buy and install. But the advertising revenue that these building owners get is enormous.
Yeah.
So it is a new source of revenue for building owners. Yeah,
Well, I don't know I know that in certain situations, there are certain types of billboards that are never allowed. otherwise, outside of those, is it a free for all? If you own the building, you can do whatever you want?
The only place they are allowed is in the theater special sub-district.
But there are other billboards downtown.
But
There-
if this is in your presentation, maybe we save some of that for that.
I was just trying to,
No, I think
Yeah.
this is great, but I don't want to duplicate if we're gonna talk
Okay.
about what parts.
So-
Just to one of your points, if I may, Nancy, this is like the free-for-all with the early, cell phone antennas. I mean, just all over the place and maddening. There needs to be, I mean, I love what you just outlined here. Measure and rate, develop policy, and then, see what we do with the, if we can do anything with the zoning text amendment.
so I hope you'll stay, and I hope you will
Yeah,
come to next month's meeting. It is, Herald Center signage is the name of the application. It is not yet being certified by the Department of City Planning. So you need to watch our website for the agenda. And then during the public comment period, you need to come and bring as many people either with you or online to give public testimony. And, I advise you to sign letters as well. And let's go into the slideshow.
Well, hold on, we have another, sort of, the hand one.
It's
I'd like
either
to
Charles.
answer the one question about the lighting console. So we also, on the West 50s Neighborhood Association board, Tama Starr, who has built many signs in Times Square. This is her industry. So she is somebody I'm consulting with regarding the laws and rules around this as well. So I'm not doing this alone.
Maybe she would come and do a presentation about, in general, I mean, I'm doing the presentation
Sure.
now, but it's just research.
Great, thank you so
I
much for
did.
your time.
Thank you.
So can you give her name to?
Yes, I'll contact you.
And it looks like we don't have another.
Okay, so Isabel and I put this together. I outlined it and she put it together. Okay, so I'm gonna read my comments. So today's discussion is focusing on the increased presence of high intensity LED signage and facade lighting across Midtown. There is a preliminary policy discussion here, for our goal is to identify the issues, understand the impacts, and frame potential next steps for our committee. This is about defining what is appropriate for a mixed-use Midtown residential community, because remember, we're moving into residential.
I'm sorry.
You tell me when.
Can you make it bigger?
Isabel would have to reduce the, closed caption size.
Yeah, I'd love it
Do
to
that.
be bigger.
Yes. Let me just.
So I call it Times Square, I call it two things, I call it Times Square in the sky, which we have right over here. This building that's lit up, that we see all the time, that's Times Square in the sky, which is way too bright. Because now buildings can have facades that light up. New technology, we
But this
can't
is a
make it
good
any
title.
bigger,
Times Square everywhere.
can't make it any bigger.
I guess no.
Okay. So Midtown. Slide. So Midtown is now mixed-use, 24/7 neighborhood with significant residential growth, hotels, and heavily used public spaces. This shift raises questions about whether existing signing regulations still reflect current conditions. Times Square is not the issue. The issue is that these Times Square conditions are beginning to appear outside the district where they were never intended. So here we have housing, hotels, 24/7 activity, parks and plazas. That are all gonna be affected by these digital billboards, I call them. Next slide. So we're getting increasing signage complaints. We got one tonight. There have been others. About glare into residents, excessive brightness, flashing, and sleep disruption. These are not just quality of life concerns, they are increasingly recognized as public health issues tied to light exposure at night. Another way to call it is ALAN, artificial light at night. So let's go back. So let's talk about what is a sign and sign types. The zoning resolution distinguishes between accessory signs and advertising signs. The distinction is critical. Legality depends not only on size and placement, but also on whether content is on site or off site. So an accessory sign in my mind, is a location and what's inside. Macy's, the Maritania Hotel. Advertising signing has nothing to do with that location. And in the 21st century, we don't look for signs on buildings anymore. We find them on our phone. So we're not even using these signs to find locations. We're finding them on our phone. So it's an obsolete type of signage. Okay, next.
It's for revenue.
So sign complaints come from many areas, but Times Square was intended to be unique. Signs are classified as non-illuminated, illuminated, indirectly illuminated, or flashing. Flashing signs receive the highest scrutiny, particularly because of their impact on surrounding areas, particularly residential and biohabitat. So that's Times Square. We want them there. But the district is strictly limited to a certain area, and that's it. But that is bleeding out into other areas, and the DOB, and no one is enforcing it. It's just happening. So residents are having to complain. Okay, so next. So where signs are banned. Signs are banned in residential districts and are prohibited by nearly all illuminated signage. Many commercial districts also prohibit flashing signs, reflecting long-standing concern about their impact. Sign regulations control size, projection, and height, and larger signs require permits. Illuminated projecting signs also require annual permits. I think we found out that if you violate the signage, the fine is $50. So think about it. You pay, I don't know whether it's,
Not bad.
even if it's $50 a month,
That's what I was gonna ask.
Very
$50
reasonable.
a
$50
year.
a minute.
for the amount of money
It's very
these
reasonable.
signs are taking in,
Yes,
it's worth the investment.
right.
Just, yeah.
It
Go ahead.
depends on the violation.
It depends on the violation,
They
but
can get
they can get expensive, but they don't seem to be expensive enough for the owners of these buildings to take these signs down as yet.
Like with the original cannabis violations.
Okay, so this is artificial light at night called ALAN. You can look it up. And the impact it has on public open space, which is, aren't we trying to add more public open space, and aren't we trying to green it? Does this go against what we're trying to do? And parks, I think, should get involved in this because,
Well, and the environment, we've had light pollution on our list.
yeah, so likely, so this is a big deal.
But more than that, it's a biohazard to animals and plants.
And,
And you,
Humans.
we're at.
you know, we are on the Northeast Flyway.
Mhm.
And the birds typically migrate from the north to south, south to north at night. And this totally screws them up. They don't know where they are. They don't, I mean, so we're affecting bird life from the whole north to south, North America,
Yeah.
South America. So these have huge, huge
And
impacts.
butterflies that migrate and the small birds that live in our parks that do not migrate are deeply affected.
So we have glare in seating areas. Public realm quality concerns include open space ambience is diminished, distinction between park and street, light and darkness is diminished. Flashing and rapid color change can be distracting for pedestrians and users of other vehicles, making multi-mode shared spaces more dangerous. Next slide. So artificial light at night, ecological impacts. I mentioned the Atlantic Flyway. Extended light exposure confuses seasonal cues in trees, affecting leaf out, dormancy, and habitat function. Artificial light at nighttime disrupts nocturnal pollinator behavior and foraging patterns, reflecting urban plant reproduction. Cumulative light pollution fragments urban habitat corridors, reducing the ecological value of parks and green spaces. So if we don't do something about this, we're working against ourselves here, if we want more open green space. Here's some physiological impacts of ALAN. Bright night at light disrupts human physiology by suppressing melatonin and shifting the circadian clock via IPRGC photoreceptors, causing immediate alertness and long-term metabolic dysfunction. It triggers an acute reduction in melatonin, raises cortisol, and disrupts sleep patterns. This environmental misalignment can lead to chronic issues, including insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular disease. This is pretty serious stuff. I
This is
mean,
very serious.
very serious. Mitigation. To maintain healthy circadian function, experts suggest avoiding bright light in the middle of the night. If light is necessary, using low intensity, long wavelength lighting such as red or amber light minimizes suppression of melatonin. Strategies to reduce physiological environmental impacts include ensuring signs reduce output over the course of the evening, reducing lumens per foot by the hour, and shifting the color spectrum to avoid the 460 to 95 nm range after 9 p.m. Okay, so next. Sign regulations control size, projection, and height, and require permits. I bet that's right. So there's an enforcement gap. Despite clear rules, enforcement is inconsistent. Financial incentives often outweigh penalties, and non-compliant signage remains widespread. So,
Yeah, sorry.
this is Bob.
Oh,
So,
okay.
okay, wait, go back.
Yeah.
So
This one?
there's 4 rating systems, any of which we could use, which are used now in other cities, smaller cities. The bug rating system, which is from the Illuminating Engineering Society, the well building standard, which is the International Well Building structure, the Lux measurement standards, and color temperature controls. So you can see what's going on there. I'm not gonna read everything. Okay, so then there's the bug lighting system deals with the backlight, uplight, and glare. Next. So the well building standard is involved in the circadian rhythm protection, nighttime comfort, glare reduction, and color temperature. So right now there is a policy discussion going on the New York City Council called Intro 804. This would restrict persons other than government agencies from operating lights causing outdoor illumination greater than 3,000 lumens in a residential district, unless the lighting is fully shielded to reduce light trespass. Any person in violation of this bill would be liable for a civil penalty of $50. And recently I read that the Real Estate Board of New York has come out saying this should only apply to residential areas of 3 to 5 story buildings.
3 to 5.
Or 3 to 5, 3 to 5 stories or 3 to 5 units per building, something like that. In other words, very low density. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to
Nothing
increase
in our-
residential density. So this
Exactly.
is again, what are we doing?
It's a joke.
Okay, so that's intro 804 testimony. Okay. So the key point we're trying to make is Times Square's special purpose-built district, its requirements were never intended to apply broadly across Midtown. So these are some regulatory considerations. Go through all those next. So these are the questions. There are clear gaps in current regulations, including no citywide limits on brightness, glare standards, no required curfews, or ecological protections. Okay, so these are the questions that we should discuss and help us to identify potential policy directions for our committee. So what brightness and lumen standards should apply to signage outside Times Square? Should operational curfews or seasonal dimming requirements be mandated? Yes, they could. It could be after 9 o'clock, after 7 o'clock, something like that, not before 7 a.m. How should parks and public open spaces be protected from excessive adjacent illumination, which is what is coming to us next month for Herald Square center signage, which is going to shine right into Herald Square North, our little Best Park that we all love so much in the bow tie. And what is an acceptable level of nighttime brightness for a mixed-use Midtown neighborhood? So those are.
It's great. Is this deck
Oh,
available?
wait a minute, can we let's let Libby talk?
Thank you. Thank you for providing, I definitely am excited about the deck. You've got a bunch of questions about like the measurement stuff, 'cause I know that that's also a problem. This is so specific to like signs. I'm curious about, I know that as buildings have been built I think the office has been getting complaints about like multi-directional stuff, both from buildings in different ways.
What I call
Um,
Times Square in the sky, which we have not yet.
Yeah,
We're
so-
we're right now doing Times Square everywhere. The Times
Yeah,
Square in the sky
so-
is-
But so I know that, and I've not done all of the research on this because my company hasn't taken it up yet and it's a little bit backlogged. But I know that there's some bills that were around that got some attention about just normal street light directional lighting being downwards. And also reducing the brightness of some of that because you don't need it to be as like operating theater type of lumens. You need it to be less for
Do
safety.
you have any of
And
those?
direction, not handy. I was wondering if you've done any research on that.
Yes, we have so
The
far.
directionality, I think Deborah Collette's office might have some information on that. Some of it was the directionality of
Maybe you
lighting
could-
and that it's pointing downwards as opposed to, and then also I've got a friend who did some stuff in Nevada on dark sky stuff that I can look into.
Yeah,
The
and
legislative of that.
we have someone who's collecting all the information. I send everything to Isabel, who, by the way, did a fabulous job
Yeah,
on this presentation, but it's a work in progress.
Question I have, and this relates a little to what the member of the public was speaking to, so, um. Do we have a clear sense of what? It sounds like there are regulations now, right? You can't just put any sign of the one anywhere, and then there are enforcement issues with those regulations. Are we saying that those regulations are sufficient? Okay, we are saying, that.
Well,
Or is it, it's both?
it's combination. The regulations are insufficient in places where illuminated flashing
Are allowed. Right.
advertising
Okay.
sign is not permitted.
Got it,
And it's only permitted in the theater subdistrict, which is 50th Street to 42nd, Broadway and 7th Avenue, and that's it. That's the whole area.
but then, so anything
So there's
that,
encroachment.
right, so, but anything that is appearing outside of that is already in violation, and we have an enforcement problem.
We have yes, we
Right,
have
we
an
are saying
enforcement problem.
also additionally on top of that, we think we need to be more restrictive on what is allowed outside of that.
I want, before we go, I just want Isabel to explain. The enforcement thing goes through the office. Do you just want to say where you are with the enforcement briefly or not? You're working with DOB.
Yes, working with DOB and they're not as responsive as we would like,
Yeah.
and we and residents are similarly frustrated with the process.
Right, okay,
Right, so the agencies that
understood, right,
simply put, the DOB says, we don't have the regs for the number of lumens, the time of day, all the things that we're talking about. So we can't, how do we enforce it? We can't measure it. That's what
got
they
it.
say.
So it's
Right,
not
yeah,
just
but-
that it's an enforcement issue, but it's
It's
that.
measurement,
they-
it's
oh, sorry,
measurement and limitations on what's allowed.
Right,
I would also add that I'm not an expert, but and maybe we would need to talk to George James or some other zoning expert about this, but in my review, I do think that there are highly dense commercial areas within CB5 where there are these signs are permitted, but maybe shouldn't be, like, I think
okay. so
there's
it's
like a
both.
medium
Okay.
area where, like during City of Yes, some areas, like I think in downtown Brooklyn and in East Midtown had some sign limitations
Yeah,
added.
yeah.
but Not areas.
Yeah,
within
I get it.
CB5.
Okay, so I'm just trying to scope out what.
According to George James, the only place is that theater subdistrict, and it's called specifically illuminated flashing advertising
Yes.
signage. He says that is the zoning resolution language
Yep.
that people violate. It goes up, no one says anything about it. It doesn't come before us. I don't believe a permit. In all the years, I've never seen one come before us.
I-
So it's just happening.
Yeah. And so again, I'm just trying to sort out, it sounds like
It
there's.
confuses
It's
me.
not,
there
it's
are
not,
two-
yeah, it's
there-
not easy.
Right, there are sort of two streams of
Enforcement and
interest,
policy.
which is that, and Isabella seems to be very much helping us on the enforcement of what already is on the books versus what we might seek to change. That's what I was just clarifying.
Okay.
So, is this deck available? I understand it's a work in progress. Is it available to this committee as of now?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we can send it out to everybody.
That would be great. At least we start with that. I see there are three issues. Okay, one is obviously enforcement. Libby, I'll be quick. Is enforcement outside the town square. The other are two sets of regulations. The regulations outside of town square, but also re-examining the regulations within Times Square. Because some of the light hazards that can come into use could be very, very dangerous in Times Square as well. So all that's a set aside, and we're gonna continue to be, day for night in Times Square. But if you get, nearly strobe effects, you can really damage people and,
Because the technology is getting so bright.
exactly.
But at this point in time, I want to limit it to, I don't want to even get into the enforcement because that's the board office's responsibility. Maurice and I went over this very, very carefully.
Yeah.
Our job is policy.
Yeah.
So, I have prepared two ideas. One is our committees and potential recommendations. And the other one is, policy options. So should I read those? Would you like me to read those? Okay. So Midtown so here's our findings and potential recommendations, and this could be maybe turned into at some point into a resolution at some point, not tonight. Midtown has transitioned into a mixed-use 24/7 district with significant residential population. CB5 is receiving increasing complaints related to illuminated signage and facade lighting. Reported impacts include glare into residential units, sleep disruption and nighttime discomfort. Pedestrian and public realm impacts are also being experienced. The existing zoning regulations restricted illumination and flashing signage, especially near residential areas. And we need to distinguish between accessory versus advertising signs. Times Square is a unique zoning district with mandated high-intensity signage not intended elsewhere. Current conditions suggest spillover of Times Square level lighting into other Midtown areas. There is a significant enforcement gap with widespread noncompliance. There's no comprehensive citywide standards that currently regulate brightness, luminance, glare impacts, operational hours, curfews, ecological considerations. Artificial light at night, ALAN, is associated with public health concerns, circadian disruption, ecological impacts, bird migration, pollinators, habitat disruption. So we need to look at established lighting standards like the Illuminating Engineering Society bug system and the Well Building Institute system. They exist, but they're not applied to signage policy. So that's basically, I think I got it all. If you guys want to add
That's
something.
could we do this as a resa?
We don't have enough people.
No, I know, I understand, but
Well, we could present it at the next.
month.
I mean, next month, I wanted to give everybody an opportunity.
Yeah.
Next month, we're going to have this Herald Square signage application. They're asking for a zoning text amendment. Do you know what that means?
it means they don't want to obey the law.
No, this means the floodgates are going to open up
Bet.
wide.
Exactly. LOX,
Usually. And when we had a preliminary interview, and I asked them, is this a new source of revenue for their building? And they
Hello.
said, yes.
The Herald Square location is in the gap between the Midtown South rezoned area.
Yeah, it's north and south of four.
So this is a 60-foot high advertising LED billboard that is on the diagonal. There's a building that wraps around. And there's a diagonal facade on the southwest corner of 34th and
Okay.
6th Avenue.
Alright.
And so it faces directly into Herald Square. That's Pocket Park.
Okay.
Now, how many of us would like to sit in that park with a flashing sign to help calm us down?
Especially since we've finally gotten some beautiful plantings there and
It's also kind of
and
pretty.
great amenities there.
I
Okay,
only asked because I remember that
it's H&M.
the garments the special garment center district had a ban on flashing signs and that was supposed to continue into Midtown South.
Right, but it's
Oh, so you're saying
it's
there's,
outside of, at their
Yeah.
Wall Street. I don't,
So what we need to do is we need to be sending more information to Isabel. Cause she's collecting all the data, anything that you can think of. I did the best that I could do. I have a lighting expert who helped me write some of it, but it's really detailed. So, yeah.
Well,
You know, the signs that are like, the grocery store sign where it's lit from the back, that doesn't count for any of this, right? Like there are grocery stores everywhere that
You're
are
allowed to have signage up to 40 feet high.
up to 40 feet tall, but whatever lights you want.
Well,
not
It's
40
not
feet
con-
tall, but 40
it's the
feet high.
signage, the intensity of the illumination is not regulated because there were never these digital signs. They're so bright. This is a new
This
technology.
is just the
and
normal.
we're way behind the
That's
20th century.
No, not that.
Yeah, I just mean like a
Twenty-first
food
century
emporium.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
technology.
Whole Foods. Burlington Coat Factory.
Right, well, that's an accessory sign. That's not advertising. I'm talking about advertising signage.
Unless you're
Which
talking
is
about
what, which
LED.
is what this gentleman's issue is with
I'm just,
where there used to be
Fleshing
at
out the
the
full deck of
Maritania
signs.
Hotel. There is now, that's removed.
Trying to
There's
read all the
no,
signs.
there's no more sign on the hotel. Instead, there's an advertising billboard where the sign was.
Your Honor's being so patient.
no, I was just
Sure.
gonna say, like, I think procedurally, I mean, I think what you lay out. It seems to me one of the best things we could do is recommend the adoption of an already existing system of measurement. I don't know that we need to prescribe exactly the lumen levels, but that seems to be like, I mean, we could, but like, I don't, like, that could.
Well, we need an
Yeah.
expert to help.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Understanding
We
what
need
it
advice
is.
on that.
Right.
Yeah.
banners.
But. And
I
that
look
could
at
come,
you.
and that, and that could come naturally out of our conversation next month,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know, yeah.
The lumens matter more
Um,
than other.
So,
But what I like about an already existing system is that it allows, instead of just like sort of, it allows people to feel comfortable, like that there's an already existing
Well,
system that we're sort of.
That's what I want to, about that ban from the special garment center district. Cause the whole reason for the ban was to prevent Times Square from moving south. And, but again, enforcement, I don't know what criteria Department of Buildings would use to say that this sign doesn't meet the criteria and is banned.
Right, it sounds like that's a problem.
well, okay, so let's go through potential recommendations and policy direction options. And I came up with 6. First of all, regulatory zoning. Establish maximum brightness lumen candela limits for facade lighting outside Times Square. Create clear glare performance standards using recognized metrics of bug and UGR. Clarify zoning application of advertising versus accessory signage enforcement. Operational controls. Require curfews or nighttime dimming schedules for large-scale signage. Establish seasonal lighting controls during bird migration periods. Require dynamic brightness controls tied to ambient conditions. Let me continue. Measurement and compliance. Require pre and post installation lighting studies. Define standard measurement methods and responsible agencies. Improve DOB enforcement protocols and reporting transparency. Public realm and residential protections. Create overlay controls for parks and public open spaces. Protect sight lines, limit glare and spill, establish buffer protections for residential adjacencies. Design standards. Encourage or require warmer color temperatures, 3000 Kelvin. Reduce blue spectrum output, which is very, very bad. And shielding and directional lighting design would be required. So if we want to go to the next step, it would be identify our priority corridors and case studies, coordinate with DOB city planning for enforcement clarity, develop a formal CB5 policy resolution or recommendation, and engage in city council discussion intro 804 context. That's what I had come up with.
this is such excellent work, Nancy. Thank you so much, and I think you really got to jump on it. I'd really like to see everything for the deck because there's so much information here. The only thing that stands out in my mind is there really needs to be a concern with flash and strobe effect.
Yeah.
But you've got so much here already. And I think if this will be on the agenda for the next meeting and we could do a reso, this is just terrific.
So I have all my notes. I could
I would
send
love
these
to
out.
circulate, yeah.
Yeah.
I could email them to you, I guess is the best
Sure.
way. You, I
At least to
can't,
the
I
committee.
can't get
No.
stuff to you.
No, I
Okay.
get your stuff and I
Okay.
respond to
Okay.
you. I don't hear
But
back.
the deck is really big, so.
I would love.
By the way, I was very reticent about doing this tonight because I'm talking about a lot of stuff I know nothing about.
Yeah.
Well, you sure learned a lot.
But I know what I'm looking at. And I know how it affects people, and I know that the perfect example is when you leave tonight, it's not gonna be dark yet, but look at the signage on 34th Street and 7th Avenue. It's brighter than daylight. Now go down to the site where the hotel was that's been taken down and look at those signs. They're super bright. You come right out of Penn Station and there's these two digital billboards. They are so bright, it almost hurts your eyes. You need
It does hurt
sunglasses.
your eyes.
This is dangerous
It
stuff
is.
we're dealing with.
Also, I think that even just normal, like red light cameras, I know my apartment is many stories up and because of the direction of how the flash works, like I will know if someone is speeding or if it's like a very popular night to go a certain way, because I will get flashes on my ceiling.
And you
of
need to,
them.
well,
So
we need, but
I
that's.
just like, this is,
disruption.
it's like, yeah, just saying that like the cover and the directional, that I think will be
Shield, that
helpful.
doesn't have to be going up.
Right.
There's a shield that you can do.
No, that's what I'm saying is I think that it would be,
So
think it's good.
we have much to work on and it's probably going to be a long-term process. So I guess I'm asking for volunteers. Maybe we should ask Brad if he would want to put together like a task force to work like this.
be a joint task force.
Yeah, well, I think we
Yeah.
can do this with parks
Yeah,
too.
I think joint task force
Yeah.
makes sense.
But
'cause
this was my
from the-
first crack and, I wanted to have my lighting designer, exterior lighting designers working on a project for us. Come and make the presentation, but she wasn't able to, but we're still looking for
Right.
presenters.
Do we know where intro 840 is on the schedule?
8:04,
8:04. Okay.
and it's
And
who's the,
who's the lead?
Committee.
Who?
well, it's 8:04, 2026. There was another 8:04, I think. There's another 8:04 that has to do with something totally
But
different.
804 applies only to residential, so it wouldn't apply to anything in
Yeah.
the district, right? Yeah,
But is it gonna go, is it gonna come out of committee and go to the floor? Do we have any idea? Okay, anyway,
Is
we'll
that-
get into all this.
Okay,
This was so great.
this is all,
This
well,
is-
no, this is not all I know, but there's so much more
There
that,
is.
you know,
This is-
white paper.
Temperature
And,
rating.
Mr. Van Winkle, right?
Yep.
Has, you have a tome, right? You have a tome,
Book.
a very long,
Dialogue of errors.
Oh, yeah.
he's got a huge thing, so.
Yeah.
But the problem with his is enforcement and we can't lose our way with policy.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think what we would want from you and the West Fifties Association, which is fighting this, is what policy would you like to see? The enforcement is something else and we will take care of that, but not
Yeah.
on the resolute, because our role is really setting policy, going to our elected officials and encouraging them to write laws that govern the things that are detrimental to our health and to the livability
Right.
of Midtown Manhattan.
And one of our policy points is we want these regulations enforced.
Yes. And Isabella's leaving. Thank you for
Thank you,
staying as long as
Isabel.
you did. She's become a real expert in this.
great.
She's expert at many things.
So,
Yeah.
Okay,
that's basically it.
great.
Okay.
So,
We have a second agenda item for town.
Yeah, so, we received back, we being the executive committee received back the results of the members of.
Oh, right, yeah.
we want to talk about that.
And we want to talk about that. Those results in some form will be distributed to the entirety of the board if they haven't already.
So that's been compiled and summarized?
Yes.
Great.
it was, we also got, people were asked about the full board and they were asked about committees. So we want to talk about committees tonight. I will preface what I'm about to say with, unfortunately, we did not get many members of the land use committee responding to the survey.
Really?
So we had
Yeah,
4
they-
respondents. I think there were.
They were
14
so pissed
people.
off, they couldn't even answer.
I don't think that's
Just
true.
in
I
rage.
responded.
There
They were
are 14
great.
people. on
I
the
did
committee.
not
I
respond.
did not.
So
I
the sample-
responded, and who gets
Guilty as
more
charged.
pissed off than me?
So the
Guilty as
sample
charged.
size with land use was small, but.
But the 4 people that, you know, they
Yeah.
have their issues,
Yeah.
so if you had good things to say,
And I would say there's also like, they were overall supported. I mean, overall, I will say the results were quite positive across the board for the board.
Yeah.
And generally people, like, are happy with the committee assignments and understand what we're here to do and things like that. So the discussion tonight is pretty open. Some of the topics that we should consider are, you know, it's because it's good to step back and think about these things is, do we feel like we're spending our time on the committee effectively and focusing on the right things? Are there other things we can and should be focusing on? Do we feel like we are being inclusive of all of our voices? You know, are there is there information distribution gathering that could be different? Are there ways that we could do that differently? So these are all open questions. We don't have a ton of members here tonight, but it would be good to have some of that conversation. Yeah, so.
I just want to start with the first one, is our time well spent. And this is not just directed to our committee here. I think this happened, and I'm only on 2, as are most of us, right? But I do hear reports and occasionally, you know, sit in on various things and, you know, and of course, you know, hear about them when the resos come to full board. But I think that the big question for me really is time well spent. What I'd like to see on this board is more proactiveness rather than waiting for applications to come across our desk, which often come across the threshold at the last possible moment with really great operators behind them who have timed this out to win, you know, what they want. And I think that would be just if we can really think of just like this kind of thing, how can we be more proactive about the issues that most concerns? Now, I responded to the email that you put out about this session. I said that I was going to be here in person, and I sent it to everybody with some of the issues because I think one of the things we've been very strong, the restroom campaign, the public, that certainly want to continue. All the issues around POPs that we have a real concern with, that we want to continue. So I think that's a very good direction, but there are other things that I would like to go further on, particularly when we get into areas, you know, that really concern green space, streetscape, biohazards like you bring up tonight, but housing and homelessness and the city's use of eminent domain, which in recent decades has been allowed only for NYU, Columbia, and the Rockefeller Foundation to use, and the city could very well do it. Penn was an extraordinarily perfect building for supportive housing. It could have been done within a year. And the city can offer a fair market rate to whoever the owner is, but can say, this is what we're doing with this. We're in a poly crisis here, right? You know, we can't do a super tall on every empty lot, particularly when there's a carbon footprint at stake here. And, you know, but the carbon footprint was taken down at Hotel Penn and standing there watching them taking the Wellington down. This is a big deal. And something that was so important, Kevin Frizz pointed out in the board meeting when it came to the Excel, you know, on 7th Avenue, replacing Wellington. We gave them 17 stories, essentially for nothing, because MT's been mandated to do this thing. Nobody's revealed the cost, but it's like the private interest value versus the public value. I mean, just like, whoa.
So
Yeah,
I
let me
think-
stop
yeah,
there.
No,
Thank you.
I think, I think one thing that Brad and I talked about, and this is something we could do board wide rather than just for land use.
Right.
Is to give people a roadmap for how to move forward with the issues that they care about. Because I think there's a lot of folks who have good ideas. or not good ideas, not for me to say. A lot of new folks with ideas. And I think, but I think what it takes is, as we saw tonight from Nancy, it takes a lot of work to get to that first step, right? It takes a lot of research and sort of putting an argument together. And so I think Brad, from the central part of the board, I think we could be more proactive about saying, a lot of good ideas on this board. Here are the steps you should think about and consider. Here are the documents you should put together. Here's what you should do. Before you come to a new business session, let's say, or, talk to your chair about how to move that forward. Because I think maybe it is not clear to some people of like how to get these discussions going. Yeah, go ahead.
This is exactly the thing that I asked for as soon as I joined this board, is a visioning event. So a combined social event where board members get to know one another, and each of us take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, with a slide deck, with a pen and paper, whatever it is, with models, whatever it is. Just give us 2 minutes, 5 minutes of what is your vision? Why did you join this board? What changes do you want to say? And what does this look like? This
I
would be
understand.
so
I totally get
powerful.
that. I think what I'm saying is a little different. I think what it takes to push an issue forward is not. I think it's totally useful to do that. I think it's, as we saw tonight, it takes a good amount of specificity in research. Because otherwise we stay up here and we don't actually have a real conversation about something the board can.
But we don't really
So-
know our board members in terms of why they're on the board, what are the priorities for them? What do they want to see done in a year, in 5 years, in 50 years? That could be helpful to every single one of us to know what our board members see this city becoming.
Yeah, go ahead.
In some ways, it's helpful to know what other people think, but I think that people need to understand what they think themselves, and that like, there's a lot of work Nancy just did. I had to do a lot of work when people come with all this hotel permit stuff. I had to bring a lot of information, gather it to refute their point. It takes a lot of work as an individual to support your point of view, and people are not doing that. They want to have a long discussion without specifics, without all the nuances, and do general stuff when they don't put in the work. And okay, I understand. I really don't like it when you say it, but then we moved the whole schedule for you. You had a week to look at the videos. We sent out the resolutions early. You had a chance
Yeah.
to read it and respond. I don't like to hear it, but we did do that work. We
And the
did
board
give you the
survey, for
opportunity,
example.
so
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can.
Yeah.
And it fell flat on
read.
its face.
Yeah.
So my committee, having just taken over the environment, has been like working with some of this stuff. As far as like figuring out what people are interested in, figuring out what that looks like. And I've talked a lot with Brad, actually. I think we're gonna have we're all looped in a little bit more too. But the committee is sort of settled on wanting to move sort of the inter-committee stuff forward of like. It might come out of Parks with the research, with all of the sort of like policy things, and then sort of becomes a toolkit. Like we know to always ask about bathrooms, no matter what committee we're on. Like we know that that's a thing we should ask. So it'll be sort of like a list of questions to ask from based on whatever passes the full board as a thing. Like that's sort of the direction we're going. But I think that what is also helpful is sort of the explainer of that policy. If we don't really do enforcement, we do this policy type of thing. And like, here's the type of evidence you're going to want to bring. And so if someone's interested in it, because they've given sort of like the opportunity and sort of like ideas, I think that knowing exactly what type of thing is possible is the end goal and what that looks like.
Mhm.
I think it's really helpful
Mhm.
to be like, we can support the bill
Mhm.
and we can do this other type of
I
thing.
think it's a great
I
point,
think the
and I think-
toolkit is helpful.
Totally.
You can't choose your own adventure if you
Right.
don't even know what the
So
options.
the
sort of
toolkit is
are.
both,
And
how do
here's-
you, right, what do you need to do in advance of talking to your chair or raising your hand at a new business section? And then also, here are your 4 outcomes. There's really not others. Right,
Yeah.
like I think it's like.
Or like if you
either-
want a good
right.
place to start, maybe there are others, but this is a good way to get your
Right.
feet wet.
And that's
with
a
the
little
other
committee dependent, because like we deal with zoning text amendments, other committees don't, but like still, it's like, I get your point of like, we should be really, I think that's a very good point, we should be very specific. In this toolkit about what the possible
And
outcomes
also like what success looks like
Yeah.
of like for us, we have a little bit of a goal
Right.
of like, here are some questions that you should ask. And like, we always want to advocate for like a green roof because we've done all this research, we've had experts in, we've developed a really cohesive, thoughtful policy about roofs and how to make them more environmentally sound in whatever way.
Go ahead.
We have a district needs statement.
Exactly.
Wait a minute. We have a budget request
Yeah.
document. We should start there.
Exactly.
In other words, we've already identified
Yes.
a number of things. This issue came up because I saw it coming, but you don't always see it coming. But then you can be proactive after you have this comes, because for land use housing and zoning, we're on a clock.
Yeah,
And there's very little time to do research. I mean, these guys, this Herald Square came really early, and because of that, I was able to pull this all together. Spent a lot of time on it. So, but we already have the district needs, we have and the thing that Kim did. That's really, that's our list, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the question is, like, I think we have the list. I think what some members struggle with, and I've heard this sort of in the survey, but I've also heard it personally. Is I think they have this idea that like, it stays at the high level. We should be doing more about homelessness. But not understanding, as Michael put very well, it's like, as an individual member of the board, you need to take that demo level and figure out what part. Like, do a little work yourself to like come with something, because like if we're just coming with a conversation.
Well, if we have,
That.
see, we have land use housing and zoning.
I'm not.
We don't, wait a minute,
Yeah.
let me bring this up, we don't do much with housing, we should not be doing housing. We should have a committee called Housing and Homelessness, and they focus on that totally. If that's a district need, we need to have that, take it out of land use.
That's interesting.
And have it having, and just having housing,
And
have a
then-
housing and homeless committee, other community boards have housing committees that are not tied
That's
to
true.
land
They
use.
do. Dual, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you, Nancy, because you just really followed up on the point that I wanted to add to what Libby's brought up, which I think is very helpful. We have district's needs assessment. We're here as representatives of the district. And then we have to recognize, and so you got 5 responses from this committee survey and others. So look, in any organization, I don't care what it is, it's a small nonprofit of 8 people, it's a corporation of 80,000 people. There's always a core, a command and control. There are many people that have different responsibilities, very different capabilities, and you have that here on our board too. So, and then this is of special interest too, because this is great resume building for a lot of people. So there's going to be X number of people who are there for that, and they're not really paying attention, and maybe you can get them to do a resume. So, but the core, and hopefully that includes our exec com, and that's really who it's going to fall to much of the time, does have this responsible, and I'm very, thankful for it, that you guys take so much time to do these things. This is not part-time when you start doing this kind of work, as Michael points out here. So I think we're going in a great direction, but just on the visioning thing again, this should really be a social event, because it's I heard this, I'm a longtime member of the Green Party, which is the only international political party. What people have told me where the party actually exists in government, and that's not here in this country, but how important it is. If you're whatever level, municipal, regional, or federal government, people need to socialize. They need to have a way of knowing one another and understanding one another, developing respect for one another. You don't have to agree, but we really want to hear, what's your vision? Why did you join this board? And then we'll see. There were people who don't have a vision, fine. But there are people that say, oh my God, I never thought of that. That's amazing. So you do that as part of a social, and it's very, very broad kind of project. But then you're on where you're getting at, and you're so right. We need to have, and I think a roadmap are the words that you use. So I'm all for that. But always keeping in mind, just coming off what Libby said, district needs.
Mike, did you have your hand? Libby.
I'll say a lot of the district meetings when it comes to parks, the way that it's worked is mostly as like partnerships, but as we take the environmental piece on, it's much broader where it's not just working with the city agency. I think that the roadmap of how to advocate for some of those issues is part of the part that's difficult for my committee, is we're working outside of it. And I would love to have more of a map. I think my committee members would love it too, to get more stuff into the district needs.
I'm hearing that the district needs process isn't really focusing us on what we want to focus on, because we've been doing the same thing for years and years and years and.
Yeah,
years.
I've talked, so I've talked about this.
Right.
I think the district needs process. What is that? Is that
That's
me?
my.
Oh, I thought it was the owl.
Her phone's blowing up.
No, I thought it was.
Her speaker's not
I
Your
think,
flashlight's
Yes,
off too.
it's hard.
Someone was texting me.
My God,
Because,
who could that be?
Someone on
Go ahead.
this.
no, I was gonna say that it's really, it all comes to, you need different things at different times. Right? And so you do need sort of high level assessments of what the issues in the district are. And we need to have that for ourselves, and we need to have that for the world. That's sort of the district statement. It's at quite a high level. It's not particularly actionable for an individual board meeting, right?
Interesting.
And then we have the budget request, which can get very tactical, very specific. And are at a different altitude. Some are actually quite high level asks, others are very specific, give this organization this amount of money to put a street lamp here, and so. I think what I'm talking about is, I think a lot of people aren't clear about how to get from one altitude to the other, and we stay sometimes a little bit and yeah, that's a real problem. But that some people don't know how to do what you just did, which is, okay, how do I take this? Yeah, that's a real problem. Someone should do something about that. And equip people with the tools, all 50 people on the board, not just Nancy, to bring it down a notch, so it's something we can actually do something about. Go ahead, and then I'll come to Zulma. Go ahead.
Okay, it sounds to me like what we need, something that a business always has, which is a 3-year strategic plan.
Mhm.
And it needs to be a strategic plan of actionable policies. And then we need to probably hire
Mhm.
with some money left over,
Mhm.
someone who will with the strategic plan,
Mhm.
someone who, or maybe someone on the board who could guide us with the strategic plan. And we pick 8 things that we're gonna do over 8 years, and we make sure committees get them. That's
Yeah,
off the
I know
top
what
of
you're
my
saying.
head.
Yeah, thank you.
Mike, hold on, just do Mike first, because Mike hasn't talked as much.
Thank you.
Then we'll go
It's
to
okay.
Saul.
Well, I was gonna try to change the subject a little bit. The 4 people that commented on this committee, is there anything about this committee that they wanna see done differently?
In the comments, the only negative comments, were about, we need to do more than just bathrooms, was one comment. And another, this wasn't a comment, but in scores, I think, this committee scored slightly less well than some others in terms of, the accessibility of leadership. But there was nothing fully, totally specific.
Oh, and
Okay.
some people didn't get a chance to talk,
Oh, yes, right.
which I don't understand, because I call on people.
Yeah. So that was the specific committee, but that's also a little more cultural.
The survey.
What?
So since I'm on the stack now,
So,
so I think you really hit on it. When you mentioned homelessness and housing, that's a task force. And what we're seeing from this park survey task force right now is suddenly we're hearing, not just from 10 voices going to 50 voices and then making a decision. We're hearing 500, now 1,000. I think we're gonna go to 1,500 or more. We're really getting very, very good.
We crossed 1,000.
What's that?
The report out didn't say that you'd crossed 1,000.
I believe
surveys
we
yet.
have, but in any case, we're going to, and we want to extend the survey process. But that's an amazing way to work is task force across committees, because there's so much overlap here. And I'll be finishing in a minute, Libby. There's so much, overlay here. And that it's also through this task force process that you get to see, from the different committees, who's really interested in this specific thing in terms of a strategic plan. Absolutely, you need a 3-year plan.
I was
There
gonna
we
say that, I think sometimes it can be a little confusing, goes back to sort of like what is in the realm of possible. Because it can be a little confusing as far as like what the community board's role is. I think it's led to some confusion accidentally with sort of like when you're an advocate or not in the community. I think another way is like the enforcement versus not. But I think some of it is like we have these great research fellows, right? Like I was really adamant about POPs, like I've got a whole thing about it and I wanted to do something about it, so I joined the board, and then we got, our fellows. But it's sort of like, okay, we have this great research. Are we gonna propose something and sort of like, what are those next steps and what do they look like? And I think that, maybe doing a joint resolution or different things from that and understanding again, back to that roadmap of like, someone did do a great report or someone did a great report on housing or homelessness, and then what?
The problem, this is
It's the
a
enforcement piece.
deficiency. Now, this is a deficiency. The fellow comes in and begins to gather information. But they only have so much time. Then we have to figure out how to turn it
Now
into
what?
policy,
What do we do?
initial, what do we do with it? How do we begin to look at it for policy? And that's the missing piece. And I don't know how to do that. They gather information and they're great doing that, and they're students.
Yeah.
So they're not,
I mean, I think we have
I don't
ideas,
know
like
the
sort of what's
students,
within the
yeah.
realm of possibility
So-
of what we as a board are,
Yeah.
what's our lane and what's not our lane. I think that there's some ideas certainly from.
So I think, so what I'm hearing, this is helpful. So what I'm hearing, and just so people understand process, each committee is having this conversation. So the other committee you're on should also be having this conversation. If it's not, you can tell them to me. But, and then at the next executive committee, we'll be talking about all the various things we talked about, and then we will go to the full board. And Brad's plan is we'll talk about the results of the survey along with some ideas of what we're gonna do about it, which is the result of this conversation. But what I'm hearing, which I think is interesting and really helpful, and what it's about land use, but it's bigger than that, is I think we need to do a better job of equipping people, this could be an orientation thing or whatever, with the sort of how to be, what is it that we're here to do? And I think for a couple of years now, we've actually, and this goes back to the issues that we had a couple years ago. I think there was actually misalignment, strong misalignment on the board about what we are here to do. I think we are coming back together on that, and I think we
There's
can.
still some confusion though, I
But I
think.
think there's confusion as opposed to disagreement. I think that's different. I think there was clear philosophical disagreement of what a board should do and how it should run.
I think there's something that's slightly different too now.
But now it's a little confused, it's more of like a
I think it
confusion.
was more factional now it's more individual.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's also sort of like if someone in my world and realm, like in my daily life, like knows that I'm on CB5 and brings up some issue that they're dealing with, and I then talk to Nancy, so I'm like, oh, this light thing in this building, someone should take that up, or like, why don't like between our committees figure it out versus sending it this person to the office, am I advocating for
Yeah,
them as a
there's totally
person
that.
versus not? I
There's
think that
totally
even
that.
that,
Right,
in a super innocent way,
Right.
like though we are the
Right.
ones who set the agenda,
right.
it's confusing.
Well, wait, let me just finish. So I'm hearing, so there needs to be some better preparation discussion of this is how you use the office. This is how you use your own, and I do think we continue to underutilize the office in some ways. And I've said that to Marisa. But so there's that. And then once you do have your teeth in something, how do you bring it to life again?
Get it
to
over
use
the
the
finish line?
example, well, not even over the finish, to get it to the starting line.
Right.
Like when all the work that Nancy just did was just to literally get it to the starting line. And I think people don't understand that. So I'm hearing
Yeah,
that, and
I
then
agree
the
with
sort
that.
of long-term, and Joel and Nancy have said the long-term strategic planning, how can we enable that more support? So anyway, yes, so.
Okay, it's two things. First of all, when I took over this committee, I prepared a orientation guide.
Yeah.
I sent it around to everybody.
multiple
I
times.
got no feedback from anybody. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it helpful? Was it not helpful? Was I the only chair? Was I the only chair of a committee that did it? Why isn't everyone doing this? Why didn't I get one on transportation? I think,
I must not have been on the committee yet, cause I would certainly respond to that.
I guess
So
what I'm-
helpful.
but let me finish. So I think that there's several levels of training.
Yeah, did I? And I
That's-
responded?
Okay.
There's
Right.
training to
So
be a
important.
chair and what you're required to do to be a chair, what we expect of you as a chair, what the board expects of you as a chair.
Yeah.
Then there's the membership training. What do we expect? And then do I share, because people are confused about land use and zoning, do we share my orientation guide with everybody rather than just the committee? Because that came out in the report too,
Mhm.
that there are orientation guides and not everybody's getting them.
And not everyone feels that they have access to everyone, other committee's documents, which actually is true, but the fact that people don't know that is.
I
a
just
problem.
wanted to say that I actually think this is a personal committee thing, but I was gonna tell you offline, but this relates to not having all the information. I think that how certain city agencies work and how things like some of the land use things work be very helpful at the full board level. If we're gonna do that for like everyone getting training on like the budgeting process, some land use things. And then I would just really advocate for the SAFO permitting process because that seems to come up all the time and be very confusing for people, even after they've had the training multiple times.
The thing is, with land use, it's so complicated that the answer when to a question is always,
It
it
depends.
depends. And there are
Same.
law firms there that can,
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
that
industry.
that there's an industry just to deal with land use. And so for us to be experts, I mean, even George James can't get all of it. Because if people are constantly moving and finding
Manipulating,
this
yeah.
But this,
and which is their job, that's what they're hired to do.
but I will say, and this is also a thing that we talked to Brad about, which is part of this discussion. We don't have to belabor this. This is
Yeah.
been very helpful, so we can wrap it up. But I do think one of the things we need to talk about, there's the question of expertise comes up a lot. And I think one of the cultural disagreements on the board is how much we are supposed to be experts or something, right? And I'm in the camp that's a little more like, we're not really here for that. We do need to know what we're talking about. to
Right.
some extent, in order to have
Or we
informed
just-
votes.
Well, but we also
Right.
just need to ask questions of the applicant.
Right.
We need to, you know.
And I think even
And
hear from
there's-
Libby, but like, I think we need to, at an executive committee level or chair, we need to sort of hash some of that out. Like, I love what we're doing with the Forest Task Force, but I also think on some level we're overflowing data. Because, you know,
On the over collecting, I would much rather have a larger sample than.
that's what I'm saying, but we're not a city agency, we're not data collectors. Like, we are here to have opinions and feelings that should be informed in part by data,
It's hard.
but we're not city agencies. So anyway, all of that is.
And city agencies are constantly changing because a lot of them are under the mayor's
Right,
direction.
yeah,
and It
right,
depends
the
on. who
data,
the mayor is.
I disagree with on the data collection. piece of it.
Exactly.
I mean more of like understanding how understanding the DP enforcement process for an ice cream truck.
to understand
Having
that.
the
Yeah.
jingle going on, that
Totally.
DP, it's not necessarily like when you call through and one, it's NYPD, like who's doing what.
I'm just like, we don't always, I think sometimes we always think we need to have the answer. And sometimes we
I think it's
don't.
a little clear.
Sometimes we just need to, we need to be really, really pushing the problem.
Problem, yeah, identifying the problem.
Exactly.
then-
And I think
yeah.
sometimes we really jump, and instead, it's the office
Right.
are here to help with solutions.
Yeah.
City agencies are here to help with
Yeah.
solutions.
Right,
Elected officials are here to help with solutions. It's not really on us to solve it, and sometimes I think our board tries, and God bless us for good reasons, tries to solve for the problem more often than we should.
Right.
Anyway,
So I just want to say that I'm sorry that I was not at the meeting. I know that so went on way long. And I think it would have helped if I had been there to explain the difference between an authorization, a certification, and a ULERP. But, you know, that gets into really detailed stuff, you know? And so instead, people just hash it out. I mean, it was.
Hey, you have a life too.
it was fun. I mean, it was yeah, fun. It was a good discussion. Pat. Anyway, this
Okay.
is very helpful.
Okay,
Yeah.
This is all gonna be discussed at the executive committee level and then brought back to the full board. So, yeah, thank you.
So thank you for your that was very
Yeah.
useful and that.
Yes, thank
I
you.
can't see, that's gonna be on the full board agenda as well, you're gonna present on that?
So what's gonna happen is
Go to the
that
next-
the executive committee this
Right.
month or in June.
Right,
Is gonna discuss
Tuesday before.
everybody's, every
Comments.
committee's comments, and then Brad, I think in his chair's report, probably not a separate agenda item, is going, and along, that will probably send the survey results out, and then he will speak to, here are the things that we're gonna be working on,
And
probably.
I'm sorry,
I
Nancy,
haven't
just let me
spoken
follow
about
up, so, but. Will it be presented visually, will we
I have
have?
no idea, we haven't
Okay,
discussed it.
all right, that would be very helpful. You
Yeah.
guys went to a lot of trouble to do it. Unfortunately, not everybody
Yeah.
responded and
Yeah.
they really had an obligation to do
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But to have that report to the full
Oh, the
board.
result, yeah, the
Yeah, yeah.
results will be shared, and there is a visual representation we have of it, and it's
Terrific.
very easy to use. I'm saying the like solutions or what we're gonna work
Well,
on,
right.
I don't know how Brad's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
want
that's
us to
fair
do
enough.
that, yeah.
I'm wondering if we could have a second pass at people that haven't yet responded,
Mm.
so that we get more participation.
Let's talk
I
about it
mean-
at exec.
I mean, let's see, I think we need, I mean, if people on land use know that only 4 people responded.
Exec is
Then
almost,
I will
it's-
say, overall on the board, we had half the board respond, so that's
Yeah, but I
pretty,
only had 4 out of.
I know, but it was
18.
not
It's
evenly
not half.
distributed.
exec is more
We
than.
don't
two
We're
have
weeks
as many
away.
members anymore either.
Yeah. Exec is
They
more than
left.
2 weeks away. If you could bring it back to Brad and say, we'd really like to give people another chance to complete
Yeah,
this survey
exactly.
before you go into exec 2 weeks from now.
We can talk about it,
But
yeah,
Annie
and he
and-
also about standing members, anyway.
All right.
Chris,
That's right, we're getting new
I'm
members.
getting
also.
them in. I thought Jacob was a new member and you should.
Anyway, thank you, Nancy. That's the end of that.
That's the, okay, so that's the end of the meeting.
item.
And, Seth, you've been very quiet. What do you have to say?
Yes, apologies. But I will say on the last item, I agree with Euron's, broad, direction to give members more tools to bring items themselves and be prepared to do so. And actually, one other thing there is like it would be helpful to have that's very committee specific. So if we could break it down by that, I could contribute something for SLAP.
And
But
that's something-
that's all on my end.
On the lighting,
He loves it,
Yeah,
Nancy, he loves
You
it.
did
What's
a
that?
good job.
you didn't say anything, you didn't make any comments on the lighting presentation.
Oh yeah, but I loved it. I'm excited to see the deck. So thank you for all the work and that.
And Seth,
Thank you.
but before, but Seth, just one last thing, just from your perspective as a committee chair, in terms of what we've been talking about here. With Ron's report on the various committee members, board members as a whole, is time well spent, inclusiveness, research. Any thoughts to share on that in respect to your own committee?
SLAP's very unique, and I think the things that we're going to try to do, or I'm going to try to do, is to make our processes more efficient. I think we've taken a lot of steps to, like, we have a tracker that tracks all the applications that are open and where the status is. So that's something we've implemented, but we're still trying to get our processes a bit more efficient so that we have more time to get people's input. But I don't know if much of that has bearing on this committee because the applications are so different.
One public comment on the,
Oh, yeah.
if I may.
Charles must.
Okay, we'll go in the room and then we'll go online, go ahead.
But the public comment is on the lighting presentation, which is excellent. There are lights that I see in the city where they're LED strips or the rope lights, and they're like equally as bright, but they're wrapped around poles. They're often decorative. Sometimes they're just around a sign that has no light features. And I think it would be important to consider in the signage or the lighting issue.
Right.
And then I would also look at Pittsburgh specifically has a city ordinance on lighting.
Yes, there-
So does
we're
Nevada.
Behind the times.
Yeah,
still.
way-
And
We're
Nevada.
Behind the times, Department of City Planning. if
That's
it was-
actually, just to that point, that's so important because in Paris, there is, the skyline,
Right,
regulations. We would not have had this horror, billionaire bunker in the sky blocking the Flatiron to Empire skyline had we been Paris. And we're so far behind, so many Asian and African and South American countries at this point.
Okay,
Okay.
and then we have one member online, Charles, if you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to make my comment that I tried to make at the beginning of the meeting in the new business. I wanted to say, people with photosensitive epilepsy get triggered by flashing lights and, with repetitive patterns or strobing or intense colors and contrasts of colors, even the speed at which the flashes are going per hertz can trigger a seizure in people with photosensitive epilepsy. So if someone from the committee could reach out to the Epilepsy Foundation of the Metropolitan New York, which is based in New York City, maybe they could put some input into the plans to regulate the lighting. Thank you.
Thank you for that,
Thank
Charles. I just want to say that there is a committee member, a public member who is on transportation committee, who has a son who is epileptic. And he is very opposed to the flashing headlights on the city bikes. Because all the city bikes have flashing headlights, which also does the same thing. So thank you so much for that comment. We'll look into it.
Okay, and so the meeting.
So I believe